Welcome back, everybody. Ready to dive into something a little different today? We're going to be taking a look at what people are saying about a pretty popular romance novel. Figured we could help you figure out if it's worth the read,
Yeah, we read through a ton of reviews for this one. Worst Wingman Ever by Abby Jimenez. Part of the Irresistible Meet-Cute collection, actually.
Catchy type.
Oh, yeah. It's a quick read.
So, what's the deal with this Worst Wingman Ever? What's the story all about?
So it's about this hospice nurse, Holly.
Okay.
And she ends up in this crazy situation where she's trying to make this patient's grandson's Valentine's Day wishes come true. Like matchmaking, basically.
Wow. So she's like playing Cupid for her patient's grandson.
Pretty much. And get this, the grandson is like the worst wingman ever. Like he doesn't even want to do it at first. You know how these things go though, right?
Oh, I know. So he gets roped in.
Totally.
Yeah.
And of course, he and Holly start to like each other, which makes things even more complicated.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster. Or maybe like a really cute romance.
Could go either way. Well, people seem to really like it. Lots of reviewers are saying it's super heartwarming, especially all the funny parts. There's this one scene where the grandson tries to teach Holly how to play poker, and it just blows up in his face.
Oh, no.
People were laughing out loud, apparently.
I bet. So they have good chemistry.
Oh, for sure. But it's not just funny. A lot of people were saying it was also really emotional, especially the way Holly interacts with her patients at the hospice. Like, some people even said they cried.
Wow.
But not just sad tears, like happy tears, too, because it's just really sweet and tender, Yeah,
I get that.
Like, one person wrote, this short little book just altered my brain chemistry. Cried. Laughed. I ended it with detachment. I need therapy and ice cream. So.
Wow. Clearly this book made an impact.
Definitely. Not everybody loved it, though. It seems like the ending was a bit of a problem for some people.
Really? What was wrong with it?
Well, some folks thought it was too abrupt. Like, it just ended and they had all these questions. And even though some people liked that it was short,
right,
others wished it was longer. Like a full novel instead of, just a quick read.
I can see that. Sometimes you just want to stay in that world a little longer.
Exactly. And that brings us to another thing that people were kind of divided on.
Oh, what's that?
The whole wingman thing.
Oh, really?
Some people thought it was super cute and sweet, but others were like, wait, this would never actually happen. Yeah, one person even said, what are you doing to me, Abby? I have the short story read in a whole 22 minutes. Like they were bummed it was over so fast.
I guess they just really liked it.
Maybe. I mean, it seems like the pacing can make or break a book for some people.
True. Speaking of the experience, we should probably talk about the audiobook. I hear it's really good.
Oh, yeah. Zachary Weber and Andy Arndt narrate it, and people are raving about them.
What do they like so much about them?
Well, apparently they really capture the characters' personalities. Like, you can really tell who's talking just from their voices. Makes the story come alive.
That's what you want from an audiobook, right?
Totally. Plus, they apparently paced it just right. It's like they found the sweet spot between too fast and too slow.
I might have to check it out myself.
If you're into audiobooks, you should. And you can get a free audiobook when you sign up for a free trial of Audible.
Yeah. We'll put a link in the description for everyone. But before we get too sidetracked, let's talk more about that controversial ending. Why do you think it got such mixed reviews?
That's a good question. Maybe it has something to do with the whole romance genre thing.
How so?
Well, romance readers really want that happy ending. They want it to feel like everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And maybe with this book, it felt a little too rushed.
Yeah, I could see that. Like maybe there wasn't enough time to really feel satisfied with how it all ended.
It makes you think about how tricky it is to find that balance between keeping a story short and giving it an ending that feels right.
Definitely. It's like you don't want to drag things out, but you also don't want to leave people hanging.
Exactly. And in the end, it's really up to the reader to decide what works for them. So
true. Everyone has different tastes. Hopefully this deep dive is helping people get a better sense of what Worst Wingman Ever is all about. And now let's talk about one of the really cool things that stood out in the story. This idea of found families.
Oh, yeah. This is where Jimenez really shines. The story isn't just about the romance.
Right.
It's also about these amazing connections that form between people who wouldn't normally be friends.
Like the patients at the hospice.
Exactly. Holly, the grandson, the patients, they all come together and form this beautiful little community.
It's like that saying, you can't choose your family, but you can choose your friends.
Exactly. And sometimes those friends become your family.
And I think that's something a lot of people are looking for these days. That sense of belonging. Like, you've found your people you know.
Totally. And it's so cool that Jimenez shows us that you can find that sense of family in the most unexpected places. Like a hospice. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter if you're related by blood or not. Sometimes the people you choose, the ones who are there for you when you don't expect it, those are your real family.
So true. And a lot of readers really connected with that idea. Like, they love seeing these characters find comfort and support in each other and create the sense of community, even though they were all going through tough times.
It's a testament to Jimenez's writing. Like, she really knows how to create characters that feel like real people, even when the situations are kind of out there.
Yeah, no kidding. The whole wingman thing is definitely a bit quirky, but I guess that's sort of what makes it so charming, right?
Totally. It's like you can explore these serious topics like grief and compassion and connection, but in a way that's still lighthearted and fun.
And speaking of connections, a lot of people loved the meet-cute in this book.
Oh, yeah. There's just something so fun about watching two people who are total opposites start to fall for each other.
It's like we all want that kind of connection, you know? To find someone who really gets us.
Totally. And in Worst Wingman Ever, that whole connection happens in a pretty unusual setting. A hospice.
It makes you wonder if being around death and stuff makes those romantic feelings even stronger.
That's interesting. Maybe it does. Like, maybe it makes you realize how precious life is and how important it is to take a chance on love.
I could see that. Maybe that's why this book hit people so hard. It's not just about the romance. It's also about cherishing the time you have and being kind to the people you love.
I think you're right. There's definitely more to it than just a typical love story. It makes you think about loss and grief and what it means to live a life that matters.
And it does all that with a good mix of humor and heart. Like, it's a story that can really speak to a lot of different people.
For sure. So we've talked a lot about what people liked, but we should probably mention some of the criticisms too. Like, besides the ending, there was another thing that some readers weren't crazy about.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
The grandson. What didn't they like about him?
Well, some people thought he was a bit too distant emotionally, like especially at the beginning.
Really? Did you get that feeling too?
I mean, yeah, kinda. He's definitely guarded at first. Not exactly jumping at the chance to help his grandma with her Valentine's Day wish.
Right.
But you have to remember, he's also dealing with a lot of grief. Like, his grandma's dying. That's bound to affect how he acts, right?
True. It's easy to forget that characters are just like real people. They have all sorts of complicated stuff going on.
Exactly. And the good thing is, as the story goes on, you see the grandson start to open up more. He starts to show his vulnerable side.
It's like he goes through a transformation.
Exactly. And that transformation is totally tied to his relationship with Holly. Like,
Yeah.
their connection helps him deal with his grief and start to feel hopeful again.
It's amazing how love can heal even the deepest wounds.
So true. And for a lot of readers, that's what really resonated with them, seeing those characters go through that journey together. It's a powerful message. Before we move on, though, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. We want to know what you think about Worst Wingman Ever. Have you read it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Tell us all about it.
And if you haven't read it yet, but you're looking for a quick listen, you can get a free audiobook when you sign up for a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description. It's a great way to experience this story and see what all the hype is about.
Perfect. So let's shift gears a bit and talk about the audiobook experience. You mentioned earlier that people are really praising Zachary Weber and Andy Arndt's performance. What exactly is it about their narration that stands out?
Well, for one thing, they're both really good at capturing the little things about the characters. Like Weber, who plays the grandson, you can hear this like brooding kind of sadness in his voice, which makes sense because his character is going through a lot.
Right, he's grieving.
Exactly. And then Arndt as Holly, she has this really warm and energetic voice that makes you instantly like her.
That's so important in an audiobook. Like, you want to feel like you're really getting to know the characters.
Totally. And they don't just sound good. They also pace the narration perfectly. It's not too fast, not too slow. It just flows really naturally.
So, for someone who's never listened to an audiobook before, would you recommend Worst Wingman Ever as a good place to start?
Oh, definitely. It's not super long, and the narration is so engaging that it really flies by. You might even find yourself wanting to listen to more audiobooks after this one.
It's like having your own personal storyteller, right?
Yeah.
You can just sit back and relax and let the story wash over you.
Exactly. And speaking of storytellers, Jimenez herself has a really interesting writing style.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that.
Well, some people find her writing a bit too simple or predictable, but other people really appreciate that she writes characters who feel real and relatable, like people you could actually meet in real life.
It's funny how one person's cliche is another person's comfort read, right?
Exactly. It's all subjective. What works for one person might not work for another.
And that's what makes these conversations so interesting. We get to hear all these different perspectives and interpretations.
Exactly. That's what we love about the deep dive. It's about exploring the nuances of a story and having a thoughtful discussion about it.
Right. So we want to hear from you. What did you think of Worst Wingman Ever? What parts did you love? What parts did you hate? Let's discuss in the comments.
And if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of books and culture.
Okay, so as we wrap up our conversation about Worst Wingman Ever, let's go back to that ending for a minute. Do you think the fact that it was so abrupt actually hurt the story? Or did it leave you wanting more in a good way?
You know, it's really interesting because some people were pretty upset about it. They felt like they got robbed of a proper ending.
I could see that.
But then others were like, hey, I kind of like that it's open-ended. It makes me think about what happens next.
I guess it depends on what you're looking for in a story.
Exactly. Some people want everything tied up in a neat little bow. Others prefer a little more mystery.
Like, is it better to watch a movie with a clear ending or read a book that leaves you wondering? It's really up to you.
And that's kind of the cool thing about books, isn't it? They let you use your imagination and come up with your own interpretations.
So as we finish our deep dive into Worst Wingman Ever, what are the big takeaways?
Well, it's a sweet, quick read that touches on some pretty big themes like love, death, and the surprising ways we connect with people.
And it's clearly sparked a lot of different reactions from readers, which shows you how personal reading can be.
And, oh yeah, the audiobook with Zachary Weber and Andy Arndt is fantastic.
Absolutely. So whether you love or hate the ending, Worst Wingman Ever is definitely a story that sticks with you.
So tell us what you think. Have you read Worst Wingman Ever? What resonated with you? What didn't you like? Let's have a conversation in the comments below.
And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the world of books and everything else we think is interesting. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Worst Wingman Ever.
Until next time, happy reading.